These trucks laden with timber were intercepted by the Department of National Parks and Wildlife officers on 20th August 2022 in Chifunda Chiefdom on account that the timber was illegally harvested. This was after the drivers of the trucks failed to produce documents supporting the harvest and transportation of the said timber. Upon being interviewed, the drivers said they were in Chifunda to collect the timber for a Mr. Steve in Nakonde. Information later emerged that the timber belonged to His Royal Highness Chief Chifunda of the Senga people in Chama district, who, when the Chama District Joint Operations Command visited the palace, denied being the owner of the said timber. The trucks were later driven to Chama police station, where they were seized, awaiting the true owner to claim within 14 days. Surprisingly, Chief Chifunda, who denied being the owner of this timber at first, came forward with a domestic license and claimed to be the true owner of the said timber. Later, the district forestry officer informed the resident magistrate through this letter dated 25th August 2022 that on 24th August 2022, after the verification of the timber, His Royal Highness Chief Chifunda, Stewart Sakala, reported himself, and it was established after accepting the ownership of the timber and the documents in question to be his for having paid the rightful amount of all the timber in question. The trucks were then released to the rightful owner, who in this case happens to be His Royal Highness Chief Chifunda. But in a dramatic turn of events, the true owner of the timber is now crying foul of being duped by the authorities in Chama district, saying that he doesn't know where the timber went after being released from the Chama police station.
I've got all what papers here. I've got all these papers. And 27 what? 1,000.
His son, Prince Gibson Sakala, alleged that his father paid about 25,000 kwacha to the area warden of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife in Chama district for the trucks to be released, but he has not benefited anything as the trucks went without his knowledge.
Pasa ku place ya kasira or mapapers ya showing kasira and maplanga ya jabana pesa mwezi ya kasira before yakabochoka maplanga ya ma production details ya mavumikizo wa maplanga ngati yakabochoka manani ya jama trucks ya imbigeza first time shakufika concession license so tikatinga kwa jama planga mamunga concession license ndio peti manyula matrack ya kuti ayambe. So my production later, yalipo ndiye maplanga banavira wanachosa kwa kasero wapeleka kwa Chama. But sinizo wache wanachosera mu area ija yena bwana guliramo maplanga. Okay. Balasi pa jano buru pesa tukamba ati ni iligo veni balasi kuti achoke aja wanakamba ati wasta 10 but wanandabusa balasi watenga futi ndrama yolinga pa 25,000. No jana wachifu wasta 10 for 3 days without bathing. So sinizi
wanatenga ndrama ni wanda
wanatenga ndrama ine nisibamo bamebo deni ndiye bangakambe bantu banaliko
bamebo basema ni wanchito bwana
ni wazawa wadeni kwa Chama ba area wadeni.
Okay.
Natipasi pola lero tibena receipt.
Okay. So 25,000 mna pass after matrack agreed wa or before
pochosa matrack after agreed wa pochosa matrack ndiye ndrama itina passa sector release. Mwambira usoya bai mapapers ninagu mwambira so chindabuisa ni mwitira gudira tu mapapers isitifuna tipu shingeko vinangu tabwati ndrama batinga bebe 25 nongena mulosi bamndala pa maplanga yaja kubena ndrama yebana dia.
So after malipira 25 matrack yaja wanayagwiririra still
bana yachusa yanaenda maplanga yaja mwe yanaendira isi kulibesi na ende kuenda kai tinazo no dia kuti ndrama za diwa kudara olo tuende kuzoza pesa ndrama kulibi so wao ngapange futi mwende kupresi wako tatizo tumaplanga bana ndrama zinadiwa kudara
sana kupaseni mwene naende
tilibena ndarama pano petikamba so pende anaenda but ndrama tinatengeko
so wanashita release kulindani
udidizi
kwa zimu mnashita claim kuti ni yatu
tunata claim mapepa tunapota claim kwa concession
and then ndarama mwapasa
mwapasa ndarama
so matrack wanashita release kulindani
release matrack vanapa vacha release kuri big man, so by the time when ndine nezofunga kati niende, so by the time amene at the same time ninapeze kati ndine ni driver wa mdala kuti ni machose kuja kwa chama ni marete kuno kwa chifunda.
So in short wantu wanathawa
nayo na ndrama sikina zidi stizi wakapena niwe vanachako ka behind the secret doors.
When contacted for a comment, Chama District Department of National Parks and Wildlife Area Warden Maibo Shibita said such allegations can only be proven in the courts of law and referred all the queries to the office of the Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Tourism or the Senior Warden.
If it's something that I need to make a statement on media, it has to come from the PRO.
Okay.
Yes, so maybe I can just assist you with the number for the Senior Warden.
Okay.
Yeah, or I'm sure you might have their contacts through the Ministry of Tourism or National Parks and Wildlife.
Yes, I have the contacts, but I've called you because that is something that concerns you.
Okay.
Yes.
It's about what, sir?
The allegations.
Okay.
From the Chifunda Palace.
Okay.
Yeah, that about those trucks that were impounded in Chama with timber. Yeah, they are saying, we paid about 25,000 kwacha for the trucks to be released, but after those trucks were released, we don't know where they have gone. And on that money issue, they mentioned your name. That's why I've made follow-ups and call you.
Those are allegations, and they can only be proven in the courts of law. If they've got any complaints, I'm sure they know where to go to.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, I'm innocent. But let them. But you can also make a follow-up with the Senior Warden.
And the District Forestry Officer Henley Yembe said his role ended immediately the trucks were released, and as to where they went next is none of his business.
Yes, at that point, I think my role was to facilitate the clearance, because where they took them, I think now that is not my business. My part was to facilitate the clearance, releasing the trucks, ensuring that all the investigations were successfully done. What remained now was to make sure that these trucks are released to the rightful owner of the timber. The chief was there. The Madam Chief was there. The prince was there. And we cleared them. And in terms of their movement now, we don't know whether they went to the palace or they went with the trucks. But I think after the story ended, as our role ended just there.
A lot of questions arise from this story. The first one being, how did the chief harvest the timber with a domestic license meant for export when the holder of a domestic license is only allowed to harvest timber for domestic use, such as roofing the house? How did the forestry officer clear the trucks carrying the timber that was illegally harvested using a domestic license but meant for export? How did the magistrate give the consent or clear the timber with questionable documentation? If the said 25,000 kwacha was paid to the Chama District Area Warden for the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, what was the money for and why was it not receipted? This letter indicates that the drivers, upon being interviewed, they said the timber belonged to Chief Chifunda, which is contrary to this video that was taken on the day these trucks were impounded.
Mchokela kuti. Nichokela kuna konde. Mchokela kuna konde. Mapeleka banji kuno. Bananituma Steven Sichela. Bananitumia kuli wa boss wa Steven Sichela. Kuti msteshani. Nyamule maplanga. Ni maplanga ya bandani? Yaba Steven, okay. Bora boy. Already. Atwalidi. Mlambya beo. Kazika mbisa wewe. Mlambya abeo. Uchokela kuti? Kuisoka hivi. Uchoka kuisoka? Ndiwe driver? No boy. Ndiwe lole boy. Waboya achani kuno? Pai wabosi wanitumia tia kasenye maplanga. Kuti? Kuchifunda. Okay.
Leo Samuel Silavwe.
Samuel Silavwe? Mchoka kuti? Kuna konde. Mwapezeka banji kuno?
Nani na mwanga.
Mwapezeka na mwanga kuno? Mwapezeka chani? Why mwapezeka kuno?
Kusenda maplanga.
Yawa ndani?
Yawa Steve.
Ndio nakutumani? Okay.
Dini yake msikanyika. Labda kuna utenga maplanga.
Uchokela kuti?
Kuna konde.
Usene shito banji pa kampani yako?
Driver.
Ndio driver? Yeah. Okay.
Emmanuel Siam. Emmanuel Siam. Choka unakonde.
Choka unakonde? Usene shito banji?
Ndine lolo boy.
Ndio lolo boy. Wapezeka banji kuno?
Labda mtenga maplanga.
Yawa ndani?
Yawa Steve.
Oso mose muli pamoja? Okay.
Does it mean that there were some people behind who used the name of the chief just to rescue the trucks from detention? If the chief was the true owner of this timber, the question comes, how did the trucks go where he doesn't know? From the happenings, it's clearly showing that the timber cartel is now using some of the traditional leaders and government officials to deplete Zambia's forests with impunity. If left unchecked, in the next 10 to 15 years, Zambia will be turned into a desert. For Movie TV News, Edward Banda in Chama, Eastern Province.